Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to the Vancouver Sun and Province Editorial Board. Thank you for meeting with us today. We have a few questions for you. We'll start with columnist Daphne Browning.
This week we've seen a lot of terrorism. We've seen the attacks in Berlin. We've seen the killing of the Russian ambassador. Do you have a concern with terrorism?
Well, I think Canada has never open to others or any border control does have to have refugees at the heart of what it's doing. And that's something that we have never flinched on or compromised on. And I think that's something that that is reassuring to people. And the other aspect is Canada benefits because
we have always been
a collection of diverse perspectives and backgrounds and stories come together around common values, common themes, living in a common space, dealing with winters in similar and challenging ways. For me, that's something that we've continue with fear and intolerance. We just have to keep drawing on the better angels of our natures.
You know that there's a cap and trade system in Quebec and Ontario, and a carbon tax in BC, and one planned for Alberta. Under the cap and trade, businesses and consumers pay less than the carbon tax in BC and Alberta. You'd like to see a $50 carbon tax by 2022. And isn't this just going to add to the disparity?
As of part of the Pan-Canadian framework we agreed to, has in 2020 a analysis of the measures in place across the country to compare them based on stringency and effectiveness. We need to know that it's fair right across the country. That's fundamental. It's a principle that's pretty basic in Canada. That everything be fair for everyone across the country, and we're going to make sure that that the impact is equivalent right across the country, and
we'll make adjustments as necessary in order to get to the equivalency of $50 a ton by 2023.
You had that interview with New York Times just after you were elected where you said Canada is the first post-national state. We have no core identity and that sort of thing. And critics, some critics thought the New York Times thought it was a very radical statement. But people thought it might be a bit of a sellout to globalization and the forces of that. Whereas you're kind of forgetting the country and its identity. I wonder, would you ever revisit that quote?
No, I think Canada's understanding that diversity is a
source of strength
for us. That having different perspectives, when you look at why, it's because there's an incredible diversity there. Because there's such a diversity there. Here, when you talk about, and it's something that other countries struggle with. And one of the reasons they struggle with it is their identity. The definition of what a typical citizen of Japan or of France or of Cameroon is and looks like is somewhat rigid or inflexible. I mean, there is a typical citizen of those countries. Harder to describe what a typical Canadian might be, because from the very beginning there was at least, certainly in the case of French and English, except that someone who was completely opposite to you was just as much a Canadian as you were.
So through our history, as we opened up to immigrants from the Far East, immigrants from Eastern Europe, the successive waves of immigration, we went through periods of angst where, there is no typical Canadian identity. Who's a typical Canadian? But suddenly along the way we realized, wow, a typical Canadian is defined not by surface attributes, but by shared values of openness, respect, compassion, willingness to work hard, a desire to be there for each other, search for equality, opportunity, justice, things that lots of countries sort of aspire to in words, but that we have enshrined into our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, into our fundamental identity as a country. So where we have no problem.
Friendly relationship with Brian Mulroney, and he's been friends for a long time with Mr. Trump. Given Mr. Mulroney's history and role with free trade, how might that help Canada? Can you elaborate on what kind of working relationship you have with Mr. Mulroney?
I have a very positive relationship. Mr. Mulroney, I ran into him a couple of times recently at various functions, and he has been using his connections within the Republican Party in the United States to promote Canada, to point out that he certainly has a certain amount of having his contacts in the United States be aware that Canada is a good thing, and trade with Canada is a good thing, and quite frankly, as I've said many times, the relationship between
Canada and the U.S. is so much more than just the Prime Minister to the President, that there are a whole slew of relationships down through every level that need to be worked on, and what Mr. Mulroney is doing is certainly a piece of that.
Prime Minister, quickly on healthcare, just this week you did not get any agreement with the premiers of the different provinces. They didn't see enough on the table. You were prepared to put a couple of % less than what they really wanted, right? So I guess
we were prepared to put more than the commitments to the provinces have their approach. I will always listen to them, but I know that Canadians expect well, I mean, the money is I think people forget.
Can't remember.